All right. Hello and welcome to the new podcast, The Disney Life Path. It's possible to live a life of your wildest Disney dreams, but what does that require? In my path, I've seen it be at least three things: having faith, having gratitude, and having a physical activity practice. My name is Melissa Ames, and I am the Rising Phoenix. This podcast is all about the kids at heart with big dreams that made them happen. Get get ready to be inspired to love deeper, dream wilder, and live a life of awesome. I'm talking speaking on stages, flying to space, working at your dream company like Disney, living life with your lover traveling by your side, and getting to meet the people that inspire you most. Feeling depressed, stressed, or miles away from your finish line? Wondering how you too can rise from the ashes? Good questions. Well, listen up because you're about to be blown away to your true Disney quantum leap. And today we are interviewing the amazing Alessandra with Money Breathwork. She's a mama of four who's living the dream, and she has some amazing nuggets of wisdom to give to us today. And she even has a free thing happening next week that I can't even believe is free. It's 10x Money Breathwork, and it's going to completely change your life. But we will have to hear it directly from her and hear what it is all about. So thank you so much for being on the podcast today. Thank you for joining me.
I'm so excited to be here. Oh my gosh, I just love the vibe of this. This is so much fun.
Yes, I know. It's been a long time in the making, but I talk a lot about living a life of your Disney dreams. So that's how I like to start off the podcast is to you, what does it mean to live your Disney dreams?
Oh my gosh. By the way, I'm a huge Disney fan. My
Yeah.
husband and I bought Disney movies before we even had kids, and I had all the Disney DVDs. So I love this so much. Living a life that is my own, right? Like my own desires are driving all the decisions, right? Living life from my heart, my soul, and letting that drive, like no longer letting the shoulds drive. I talk about this a lot because so many people are shoulding themselves, right? I should do this, or I should do this, or I should do this, and really letting our hearts be the beacon, the light of where we're meant to go. So, that's really like what I try to embody every single day is like what do I want? What do I want for my family? What do I want for my impact? And letting that move me daily.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's really about tapping into your own intuition and just finding out what is it that you truly desire to do. Because I think the greatest transformations that I've had in my life have been when I'm like, I want to go to Costa Rica to birth my son. And everyone around me is like, that's crazy. Why would you go without your family? Why would you have a natural birth? Like, you should just do it the traditional way. But something in my soul said, no, this is what I want. This is the experience I want to have. And in doing that and following my heart, even though other people were saying no, was the most transformational experience I could have had.
Yes.
So,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. do you have
Beautiful. I
any
love it.
do you have any moments like that?
I mean, I've had a lot of, I call them big leap moments
Yeah.
of, a lot of it was, like moving out of like jobs or, just like the shoulds, right? Like I should be doing this or I should be doing that. And so just along my career, it was like, I have my master's in social work. And so I got like a good 9 to 5 agency job that was actually pretty like coveted. I lived in LA, and so those were actually really hard to come by. I didn't have to speak Spanish, which was like a big deal too, because a lot of like the jobs that I wanted, like you had to be like bilingual. And so I found this like great job, great coworkers, everything. And but I always knew I wanted to have a private practice, and because I wanted more freedom. And so I worked there for a while, and I remember having this conversation with my supervisor at the time, who had been in that job for maybe 10, 15, 20 years. I'm not quite sure. It was a long time. And I said, I'm going to leave so that I can start my private practice. And I remember like super vividly, I don't remember exactly what she said, but she said, I wish I could do that.
Oh,
And I
wow.
was like, wait, why can't you? Like, why,
Yeah.
but it was just that mindset of like, this is what I'm doing. This is what I should be doing. Like it's a good job. Like we get paid well. We have great benefits, like all the things. Right. And I was like, but I know I've always wanted more. And so I left that job. I think I had like 3 clients because I had been like driving from like the coast way inland, like almost an hour almost every day for like a 1 client or 2 clients or whatever, starting my private practice. And I think I left that job with 4 clients. And within a few months, I was fully booked because I went all in on it. I said, this is what I wanted. This is what I wanted my, life to look like in my mind. Right. And
Mhm.
then I built up that practice and I was like working like almost like 1 o'clock to like 9 o'clock every night. Like I was fully booked. It was pretty crazy because I got walked into that private practice and it was a group practice. So there was maybe 15, 20 other therapists there. And some of them had been there for years and had like 2 clients. And I come
Yeah.
in and I'm like, boom, let's go. I'm good, and I was fully booked. And so everyone was like, what? How are you doing this? Right. And one of my things was like, you've got it. Like, I didn't know what coaching was at the time. I didn't really know that realm. I just knew therapy and I knew that's what I always wanted. And so I was pretty much coaching these women and mostly women on confidence and conviction in their offer, quote unquote. I talk about this a lot now in the coaching world. I didn't know it then, right? Like conviction in your
Mhm.
therapy offer, right? Like and conviction in what you're meant to do. um I was coaching them constantly on like putting themselves out there and owning who they are and charging like full fee because all these people they were charging like $30 an hour, $20 an hour. And that's not sustainable, right? That's just not sustainable.
Mhm.
And so I had built this practice and I was still a little bit kind of like, ooh, I don't know if this is it. And I came home one day and my husband, we had just gotten married. And he said, well, what would you do if you could do anything? And like without it, like we were planning our year anniversary trip and we were going to Iceland, which by the way, if you haven't been to Iceland, it's like magic. Talk about Disney. That is a
Yeah.
magical, magical place. Um, and I said, I would travel the world. And that's what I wanted. And so within 6 months of that moment, I closed my practice. We started traveling. Got pregnant with our first kid. We now have 4 kids. And it's just been decision after decision of choosing, like making those big leaps, things that don't make sense. Like I didn't have anything on the other side. I found the coaching world while I was in that transition. But I didn't have, like everything set up. I didn't have hundreds of thousands of dollars in my savings account. I didn't have these things set up. It was just trusting my heart that like if I was being pulled there, it was for a reason and I needed to follow that. And so it's just been I mean, my daughter is now 8.5 years old. And so it's been 8 years of kind of big leap after big leap after big leap.
That's amazing. So it's super inspirational too. So it sounds like it's taking the leap before you're even fully ready.
Yeah.
And one of the things I talk about a lot is having faith. So having an unwavering faith that what you want is possible and that not only is it possible, but that it's already happening. And then you take action from that. So
Yep.
it's having faith plus taking action.
Yeah.
So that's incredible. I was also wondering, I talk a lot about having a physical fitness practice. So I'm going to be taking my audience through running their first 5K, and it's going to be a completely transformational experience. There's going to be running meditations that people can listen to because I believe that there's this mind body connection and that there's some science behind actually doing affirmations while you're on a walk, while you're on a run, and that it goes into your subconscious mind more whenever you're in movement than whenever you're just still. So, have you seen that in your life? How has fitness played a role in your life?
Well, it's interesting. 2 things that brought up. I was actually a national champion softball player. So I went to University of Michigan. I'm an All-American. So being been my whole life. But I was also injured a lot. And when I graduated college, like I've had back surgery, I've had shoulder issues, I've had knee surgery, like I've had like all the things. And back surgery was in college. And so by the time I was out of college, I was kind of burnt out. especially with like pain. And so moving from like going like all out, like constant, it was like my whole life, to just like kind of taking a break, right? Um, and then I started having kids. And so fitness actually hasn't been a big part of my life. And it's something that is coming back in recently of like, I want to be strong. I want to be doing this like with my body. Like now that I'm done having kids, I've had four and they've all been like amazing pregnancies. Like I've been really healthy throughout them, right? So it's been a really great experience, but now I'm ready to get my body back. But here's the connection that what you were talking about in terms of like that physical movement and that adding in the affirmations and the work, the subconscious work. That's what breath work has done for me. And
Mm.
so I used to try to meditate and do all those things and just sit there and be quiet, right? But also as an athlete, and I talk about this with my husband a lot because I introduced him to breath work and he was like, he has that kind of athlete energy. And so I feel like when you are that athlete or that depth of athleticism and physical fitness, breathwork is such a powerful modality for you because it's not passive, right? You're doing something, you're breathing and you're going and you're going and you're going and you keep breathing and you keep going. You're going through the, like I always say, going through the finish line. Right? Like you're literally, it's all my like sports references, you know? Um, and
Yes.
so for me, I've been doing that for about 2.5 years now. And what I realized is that pairing the breath work in itself is already so transformational in itself. And I think it's because like what you're talking about, like all the science of like when you're moving, it's moving energy in your body, whether or not like I get up and I move. I do squats sometimes when I'm in breath work. I do all sorts of, I
Yeah.
get weird. I'm like,
Okay.
everyone, let's get weird. And that's fine. But and I think it's also, my background of like our bodies are so powerful. Like I've had clients who I've said like do sit-ups while you're doing breath work because their core needs to be able to hold up the strength of their bigness, right? And so they'll like they've told me like I just started doing sit-ups and I'm like that's why, right? Like when we're pairing that deep transformational work with moving our body or the somatic work, I've done, the reason why I did squats once, I've done actually multiple times, but it was this really really powerful moment where I said my legs are going to need to be strong enough to hold up how big I'm going to be, right? And so while I was breathing, I was doing these squats, and I was like, what am I doing right now? I've never been called to do that, but it was this strength and this body mind soul connection that was happening through that breath work. So for me, um, especially as an athlete, the breath work has been a challenge, right? Because breath work isn't easy. It's not passive. It's not journaling. It's not listening to somebody talk on, I call them talking head programs. Like whenever people buy like programs and it's just someone talking versus like getting our bodies involved with that deep subconscious work. I feel like that has been the biggest game changer. I wish I had it as an athlete. I know that I'm going to be making breath work for athletes and all that kind of stuff going forward too at some point. But that has been the biggest thing for me of doing that work. And now, like speaking of physical fitness, that came through in a breath work just a couple it's been coming up recently, but it came up just like the other day where I was like, all right, I'm ready to get strong. Like I have back issues, so I don't know if running is going to be my thing. Maybe eventually I'd love to be able to run, but lifting and being strong, and I feel like it's such a great like subconscious connection of like when our bodies are strong, like I said before, like it gets to hold up how our missions, it gets to hold up how big we're meant to be. It gets to hold up, like I had this client at one point where during our breath work she had like intense, and it was like the pain because she was letting go of a lot of trauma, and it was like the pain was keeping her hel- like standing up straight, right? And all of a sudden her back or the trauma was like coated in her body and it was keeping her standing up straight. And all of a sudden we were letting it go. And so I was like, you've got to replace that with something. Like you've got to tell your body, no, we're strong enough. And so I'm like, that was one of the people I said, like, do some sit-ups, do some planks, just like throw a plank in there every once in a while. It wasn't during breath work, but I was like, seriously, like your body needs to like feel safe for you to let go of these traumas and these limiting beliefs so that you can stand tall and be strong.
Yes, that's amazing. And one of the things I actually recommend is if you want to try something more advanced to actually do breath work while you are on a very slow jog. I've
Yes.
I've done it before and it's really powerful. Just the energy that it gets you in and the feeling that you have. And I think it's like if you're not a runner, you actually stand more to gain from running. Because if can't even run around your block, then if you do run around your block, you're like, yes, I
Yeah,
did it.
I love
Like
that.
this runner's high. And
Yes. I
yeah,
love that. I actually started doing when I started doing walks. I was doing breath work during my walks. The only one that was hard was like doing the holds because I do
yeah,
like certain breath work sessions that have different breath patterns, and those are the ones
uh,
that I would do while I was walking. And so the holds were really hard. But I have a lot of my clients actually will listen to my breath works while they're at the gym while they're working out too. So absolutely, like it is, I feel like it's finding your thing, right? Of that's going to pair. And I'm such a believer of pairing the body with this work. And I love that you're doing it with fitness. And I do it with breath work. And because I feel like just being in your journal or just standing in front of a mirror doing affirmations or just reading a book or like I said, like doing a talking head program, like it's just not enough. Like our bodies have to feel um like strong, like I like strong and safe, like strong to go to hold up your bigness, and then safe, like our nervous system needs to feel safe to be big. Our nervous system needs to be safe to be seen, safe to receive whatever it is that, I mean, all three of those are like when you're building a business or when you're wanting more in your life. Those are kind of like our three pillars, right? To be able to receive, to be able to be seen, right? Yeah, so I love it. I think it's so powerful. I think bodies are key, honestly.
yeah, that's awesome. So we're already diving in, but let's dive in a little deeper to the breath work. I was wondering what you might say to somebody that has some blocks around their money mindset. For instance, like I need to have capital, I need to have investors, I need to have money before I can start my big thing. That's been one of my hugest blocks that I've had.
Yeah. Well, you know my story about big leaping before you have all the things, right? And so what has been like really really powerful for me and my clients is a lot of money mindset work is in the mind, right? Like it's money, it's in the word, money mindset. Oh, we're going to do our work. We're going to do and I was a therapist. So I was trained in so many of the mind like cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy. Dialectical behavioral therapy adds in like a little bit more of the mindfulness piece. So that's really great. But so many of these like evidence-based programs of kind of rewiring your brain for better thoughts. And so a lot of the work we do with money mindset is typically in our brain. And so for me, my biggest money, I quote unquote block or whatever you want to call it, was entrepreneurship was a roller coaster because I was raised by an entrepreneur, and he was a millionaire by the time he was, and this was like 40 years ago or whatever, um a millionaire by the time he was 25, which is crazy back then. And I grew up in like million dollar home, all that kind of stuff, and we went bankrupt when I was 8.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and so then that was really really traumatic and really hard. Like we had to move out of our beautiful home and all the things we were talking about. I was going to like prestigious private schools and we were talking about going to public school, all this kind of stuff. And which was like I was 9 years
Yeah.
old. It was pretty traumatic. And so he built it all back up. He always was a hustler. That's where I learned like grit and hustle and all that kind of stuff. And he built it all back up. And then when I was 20, he had built like seriously, like probably even bigger than he was before, and almost went bankrupt again. It was more like natural disaster type stuff. He had a big ranch, and it got hit by fires in San Diego, and it was like really, really devastating, but almost went bankrupt again. And so I knew that this was my pattern. Like, it's going to be a roller coaster. Like, it's what it's meant to be. You know, some days you have millions of dollars and some days you don't have any, right? Like, that's just the way it's supposed to be. And my nervous system was wired for that. Like, it actually craved the roller coaster. It craved the dopamine hit at the end of the month to make it, right? Like, okay, oh, we're I don't know about making rent the month, and then I hit it on the last month and I'm like, woo, the last day of the month, right? And so I realized that this wasn't like normal. Like, this isn't the way that I'm actually supposed to be um living. And so when I started moving, and I was doing mindset work, I was reading all the books, I've joined all the thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of money mindset programs, like I spent it all. And I realized this has got to be done somewhere else. It's not, my mind isn't doing it. And I was realizing that I was, like I said, coded, wired for that specific experience, right? That experience of um like the stress. I was wired for stress. I was wired for the roller coaster, right? And so our work is, and you're using your example of like, I've got to have everything set up and right, and I've got to have all the knowns, right, checked off. Like, I've got to have the money, I've got to have the things, like I've got to be quote unquote safe, right? And so the work that I do is for us to find that safety in those big leaps. And not only the safety in the big leaps, but the safety to go all in and believe that I can do this, right? And so we've talked about belief, and what I've found is that so much of the work that we do, like I said, mindset work, is like trying to train to believe, right? Okay, I'm going to say my affirmations, I'm going to journal, I'm going to do all the things, like I'm training my brain to believe. But our biggest, most powerful believer is going to be our body. And when our nervous system believes, uh, from that place, that's when all the aligned actions happen. That's when we're most magnetic. That's when we, like I said, take the actions that actually are in alignment with our, not in alignment with the shoulds, they're in alignment with like the heart, right? I find that going into breath work, and I even created this new worksheet for the event that we have next week, because I was like,
Yeah.
I actually downloaded it during a breath work. And so I've done this before in breath work, where I had like, write your beliefs at the beginning of the breath work, and I want you to rate like, how much do you believe them? And then after breath work, when we're like in there, I say that you meet your higher self in there. It's like a portal to like that version of you who believes anything is possible. And so I say after the breath work, like, okay, now what do you believe? And what are those beliefs? And how strongly do you believe them? And it's always way more. And so if we can believe things stronger, which is from our body, more and more and more and more, commit to that work versus just like staying on that surface level, then it's going to be like so much more powerful in terms of like what we produce, right? Like the actions that we take, right? When we're coming actually from the conviction and the unwavering faith and trust. I have unwavering faith and trust in money is like a really big breath work in our space. I have that theme come up a lot. Um, and so when we can let our bodies lead, right? When we drop into that space of our bodies, then all that stuff kind of melts away. Those fears, like you might still have them, like, I need to have like the money in the bank or whatever. And it's like, but when I'm fully convicted in my product and what I'm meant to do, then all those actions are in alignment with it and it works. It's like,
Mm.
things have worked so much easier because, like I said, I'm a college athlete. So I gritted it out. I gritted out my way to six figures, and I hustled and I hustled and I hustled. And then it, like I had the roller coaster. I was up and down, up and down, and up and down. By the time I founded Money Breathwork, I doubled my business. It was so much easier. It was so much more fun because I wasn't gritting it out anymore. I was letting my faith and trust and belief be my guide, which was anchored in my body. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. So it sounds like for me, what you would recommend is do the money breath work, regulate my nervous system, and then operate from that action. So then reach out because I want to start doing speaking gigs and telling my story. So then write those emails from that place of
Yes.
secure and knowing that it's going to happen and I'm going to meet the right people and then watch the magic happen.
Yes, I call it the higher self to-do list. So what happens in breath work is we get these little nudges. Like you will, when you do this work, you will get the nudge, reach out to this person.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I should pitch this person. I want to speak on that stage or this, or right. And what happens is, this is what's happened to me, is in the breath work, it's so obvious. And of course, like that would work. I mean, whether or not you get the yes or the no, your conviction is like, I'm going to do that. And so I really recommend writing that down. So that's part of my worksheet, actually. The worksheet that I made is that belief part that I just talked about. And then that next part is the higher self to do list. So it's like all the things that come through during breath work, write them down, right? And commit to doing them, because guess what's going to happen? Your brain's going to catch up and be like, you said we were going to do what? That's terrifying. No
Mm-hmm.
way. Right? Like it's like my favorite thing in the world. And it, just noticing this dichotomy between our brain be like, wait, you're going to reach out to this person and ask this person. And what if they say no? And blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
You know, our brains, right? But in
Uh-huh.
breath work, it's amazing. You'll feel it like there's no doubt in your mind that that's what I should be doing. And so I really recommend committing to this practice every time. And you might not have like those amazing to-dos. Like I've had clients be like, well, my higher self said I need to take a bath. And I'm like, you never know what idea is going to come through in that bath, right? Or the
Mm-hmm.
result of that, of you relaxing, of you shutting down your mind, right? And so you might not always have like the to-do list checklist of like, send a pitch to this company, or write it right now, or write this post, or do this thing, right? But a lot of the times you will. I always add in, I wouldn't say always, it's probably like 95% of my breath works. I always end with, okay, what are you going to do next? Because I'm not about just doing the work like in our bodies and being like, okay, this feels really good. I'm like, okay, what are you going to do? What's the action step? Where are you going to go next? How are you going to? And so I really recommend making that higher self to do list and making that commitment. When I write it down, I'm going to do it. And that might mean after breath work, taking that time, like that 30 minutes or 45 minutes after, to write that pitch and just
Yeah.
like get it out. Like the words that come out of my mouth and my like my body and my brain after breath work are usually my best posts. They are usually my most magnetic. They are usually the best ideas. And so I really recommend having that time. It's not always possible, but maybe like I should create a little notepad that says higher self to do list. You know, like where you just have this little notepad right next to you. I mean, the worksheet's really good too. You can always print that out, and so that you can like anchor that in, and so that when your mind starts to freak out and be like, "We're not going to do this," you're going to be like, "I committed to it. I'm going to do that," and then that's a good time to go into another breath work and be like, okay, now I'm going to do that today. So if you have your higher self to do list and you're starting to question yourself like a couple days later, do another breath work and then be like, okay, here I am. Here we go. And now write the pitch, send the emails, right? Like it's this beautiful, like I call it compounding, the compounding of that belief, compounding of that, like that soul energy, the higher self energy. Because she's like, you got this. Like there's like, she's like the
Yeah.
most she's like, what are you talking about? Like, of course, like why would that not work? And and that's why I just love breathwork so much, because I love that feeling of being like, oh yeah, like totally, like of course, like that's just exactly what's going to happen. And then your brain, if you go like too long between breathworks, that's why I love my clients kind of doing it almost daily, maybe every other day, like really just compounding that. The longer it goes, the more your brain comes in, right? Your brain's like, oh no, we don't have to do that. We can do that next month, or this or whatever, right? So commitment and compounding, and then commitment to the higher self to-do list, and then compounding that belief.
That's amazing. Yeah. And I've seen in my path how important having a spiritual practice is. And sometimes you have to change it up. So maybe breath work is my next thing, you know? I've done
Yes.
the gratitude practice and that was really powerful. I did the magic, I think it's like
Yep.
28 days or a
Yep.
month long practice.
Yeah.
that really transformed my life, but I'm having trouble going back to it. I think maybe because I know that it worked so much, and maybe because I've already done it, it's already something that I've, integrated. So I think adding the breath work might be the move to make,
Yes.
have that.
And the one thing that I talk about too, and I actually just like posted this on my stories, but I had written a post. This actually came through during breath work of like the times I do money breath work. I'm like, I do it when I'm feeling good. I do it when I'm not feeling good. I do it when I'm feeling depressed and down, and I feel it when I'm floating on air, right? Like, and it's
Mhm.
this practice that you can do kind of bring you back to baseline. That's what I always talked about. Like therapy always is like brings you back to baseline. It kind of brings you out of that funk. It heals your limiting beliefs. It heals your trauma, that kind of thing. It brings you back to baseline. And so like a lot of people look at it as like, okay, like I need some things to heal. I need to get over my limiting beliefs. I need to like, believe like I have these codes and programs of money. I need to reprogram them, right? And so there's that one piece of like using money breathwork to like kind of bring you out of that space. And then the next piece is like, now what's next, right? The expansion piece. And so that's
Mhm.
kind of more that higher self part is like, and I always incorporate kind of it all in one breathwork session. So it's like, what do you need to let go of? What do you need to release? What do you need to heal? And then it's like, okay, what's next? Where are you expanding? And so it's this like, I think it's one of the most dynamic practices I've ever done. Like no session is the same, right? Like you were talking about like, well, I've done the 28 days and that was amazing and it was working and it changed my life. And now it's like, now what? Right. Whereas in breath work, like every session, even if you did like the same one every day, like it's going to be different. Like you're going to find something different when you just trust your breath and you let your body go where it needs to go. And then also in my vault, I have like 200 and almost 70 different breath works for
Oh, wow.
like completely different thing. Like they're all very targeted. Like this is what kind of sets this space apart from like normal breath work is like, I'm here to like expand you into that bigness. I'm here to help you make more sales. I'm here to help you make more money. Right. And so I create very targeted breath works for expansions, for the healings, for whatever it is that you need in that next evolution. And so it's like never the same. Like it's never boring in our place, in our
That's
space.
awesome. That's great. Yeah, that's what I hope to do with my running meditations as well.
Yes.
Different versions, different things, whatever you need. I have one on feminine flow. I have one on breaking family chains. One that's like living like a Disney life. It's
I
like,
love it. Oh my gosh, I love it so much.
yeah, yeah, super playful. I'm sure it probably also transforms the way that you show up because I just had a conversation with somebody that had like 40,000 followers on Instagram and like was interested in being on my podcast. And then I noticed my energy kind of dipped when he was like, "Well, how many listeners do you have?" And I'm like, "Well, I just started." And after I got off the call, I was like, "Dang it, I should have showed up more in that energy of like, well, I just started, but I know this is going to be really huge
It's
and
going to be
my
huge.
really like you, like showing up in that energy, I think probably also transforms the opportunities that you'll be given.
Yes, 100%. Because it's that belief. Like
Mhm.
when you are standing in that conviction of the belief and that faith, unwavering faith of where I'm going, then you speak from that place, right?
Mhm.
Like it's just getting started. Are you ready to be a part of this project? That's just like, and to be one of the first people in this humongous opportunity. Like, you say the different
Yeah.
energy.
Uh-huh.
And that's contagious, right? When you show up, like you're a big deal, like this is a big deal, like this is like the best opportunity, then people are gonna be like, oh, I want in on that. Like, whoa, and it's not necessarily like they're feeling like they're missing out, but it's like I gotta be in that energy. Like that sounds incredible. Like I've
Mhm.
gotten like one of the biggest things that I have people come in and they do breath work and they have these mind-blowing experiences. And I was like, the simplest question is, do you want more of this? Like, what would it be like if you had this at your disposal whenever you wanted? And some people are like, oh my gosh, like that's exactly what I want. Some people don't. And what I find is like when people have mind-blowing experiences, but they don't, like they're like, okay, I'm good, right? Then they get that gap between like I said, that gap that happens when your brain kind of catches up of the big breakthrough, and they're like in the same spot in a few months, right? But it's like when you can stand in that conviction of like, do you want, like Do you want to be a part of this movement? Do you want to be a part of something that is just going to like change your life every day? I'm just using myself as an example, and I'm like
Mhm.
using you as an example too. It's like people want to be a part of it. Like this is a movement, and you're meant to be creating this movement. And the more you can like stand in that energy of the movement. I have a breath work for this, by the way. There's a breath work that's like my motto. Oh, we have a breath work for that. But when you can stand in that energy of your movement, then it's magnetizing in it. And that's when they're sharing and they're posting and they're joining in, right? And then that gives you more energy, right? Because there's that validation and that excitement, right? And it just is a snowball, right? That's one of our days in 10x is 10x your momentum. And it's about creating that momentum of belief and that momentum of action. And then that is just contagious all around you. Everyone wants in on it.
Yeah, amazing. So tell us a little bit more about this 10X event and how can people be involved in it?
Yes. So it is, oh, I should make the easier URL, moneybreathwork.com/10x. I will do that. Moneybreathwork.com/10x will be available right now. It's not a simple URL like that, but it will be when you listen to this. And it is a 5-day event. I did this last year for the first time. So it's turning into an annual event. It is 5 days of breathwork. So it's not like we just do one day of breathwork and I'm talking to you the whole time. We get into it. I want you to experience it on in multiple different realms of your life. So we're talking about 10xing your success, 10xing your momentum, 10xing your bigness, 10xing your belief, 10xing your sales, right? Each day has a different theme that's designed to really help you become that version of you who 10x, that higher self who already knows where to go, what she's done. She has conviction because she's already done it. That's who I want you to connect to and embody so that this is an event that changes your life, right? Like it's an event that from that moment, I want people to look back and be like, that's when everything changed. When I did that, when I attended that event. And of course, like my vision is like when I committed to money breath work, when I started creating this practice around it, that's when my whole life changed because that's what changed for me. So I'm creating this a beautiful event. It's going to be live on Zoom. It's super high energy. Like I said, people are just having these insane breakthroughs left and right. We're sharing in our group, breathwork every day, and really just like meant to be a catalyst for your biggest year yet. And I know we're only in October, but you know, setting that up.
Amazing. It sounds like it's going to be a really incredible opportunity, and I can't believe you're doing it for free, you guys.
Yes.
Join in for free. Transform your life, and these little things. It's just taking action. It's just leaning in and saying yes, and then watching how your life transforms after that. When you commit to it, whenever you're consistent with it, whenever you try something new. So I'm really excited that you're offering that.
Yes.
Uh, and then uh, what I have a couple more questions and
Sure.
then wrap it up. But what was your rising from the ashes moment?
Ooh.
So I thought about being a phoenix, and like sometimes we have these moments where our life crumbles, but the difference is how do you rise from it? It sounds like your father did that in his life where he had a crumbling moment, but he ended up was able to rise from it. And some people, I feel like they never do rise from it.
Right.
So, or asked in another way, what was the hardest thing you had to overcome to get to your wildest dream?
Yeah. So I love the energy of the Phoenix. I actually bought this like years ago. I bought this, Udemy, that like site that you can get like it's like an app where you can get there's all these different like little courses and things. It's called udemy.com. I got this like animal activation or at animal totem activation. And one of them was the Phoenix. And I did that Phoenix. It was just like a meditation. I did it every day. And it's so funny because now that I look back on it, that was the beginning of money breath work. And so my story very briefly was like I talked about the roller coaster, right? So I built a 6-figure coaching business. I brought my husband home from work. We were having kids. I have a lot of them. And I was paying all our bills and we were, a team in that. And then it hit a point where I didn't know how I was going to pay our bills at the end of the month, right? And so then I just like gritted it out again and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this and I built it back up, right? And then once again, I got to a point where I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know how we're going to pay our bills at the end of the month. And it was that kind of second or third time in the roller coaster where I was like, okay, I got to do something different. This can't happen anymore. Like this is way too stressful. Like I can't do this anymore. And it was actually, now that I think about it, it was probably a few months after I had been doing that Phoenix activation. I had been getting my certification in breathwork at the time, and I realized, okay, I'm going to use, there's something going on with money here. There's something going on with like my nervous system and the regulate, like I'm regulated to stress. I'm regulated to this like roller coaster. I've got to do something different. And it was in that moment, it was February 2021, when I decided I'm going to use breath work, and I had to do something different. Like I had like quote unquote success, but I had 3 kids at the time. We hadn't had our fourth yet. And I was like, I can't do this to my family. I can't be a stressed mom constantly. Like I can't be here. And so I had to do something differently, or else we just were going to get normal jobs. And I'm like, super employable. I've got my master's in social work. I could go to get an easy job or whatever. But it's not what I wanted, right? I wanted that, like, your quote unquote Disney life, right? Like I wanted to have that freedom. And so it was when I committed to doing something different. And so, I chose breath work, right? I chose that money breath work. For someone else, it's like looking at, and maybe you come join me in money breath work, or maybe there's another different, quote unquote, different for you, that it's like, I'm going to do something different. I'm not going to keep doing the same thing. And for me, that was doing that. I started healing myself. I started doing that in a deeper way. That's when money breathwork came through. That's when I started sharing it with others. And I doubled my business within 6 to 8, 10 months, right? Like it was like super fast. Um, so that was kind of and now I put the Phoenix night. That made me an idea. Maybe I'll put a Phoenix activation in one of our breathworks for 10x. I have kind of the outlines of them all, but I have a couple breathworks that actually have a Phoenix activation at the beginning, because I just love that energy of like the fire and just like kind of going in and giving you a rebirth. And that's kind of what I believe breathwork does every time. So yeah, that's kind of where I've come from. And how I've kind of used my modality to rise. And I keep using it. Like I said, I keep coming back to it. Even when I'm growing, it's that expansion. It's almost like a rebirth every time, and next evolution, like next evolution of my bigness, next evolution with my money story, right?
Mhm. Amazing. Yeah. And kind of going along that same theme, what would you recommend to someone who's feeling hopeless right now but has a big dream on their hearts?
Yeah. So my easy one is to do breath work because like I said,
Yeah.
breath work will bring you into that space of belief, right? When you're feeling hopeless, when you're feeling like, oh, I have these big dreams, but I don't know how, or I don't know, I don't have the money, or I don't, like, you can start a business, or you can put yourself out there with zero money. Like you don't have to have a ton of capital. Like you can start putting yourself out there with nothing. Social media is free. Like you can create whatever you want, but you have to have the belief. You have to have that access to that unwavering faith and trust in where you're going and in your dreams. And so when you have unwavering faith and trust, like I always say, like the universe didn't put this carrot of a dream in front of you so that you never get it. It's not just taunting you. It's like, no, you're actually meant for this. And so when you're putting yourself continuously in a space where you believe, you're going to take more action. So you can start like, whether or not you join the money breathwork movement or not, like you can start doing breathwork. Like breathwork is free. Like you can literally start breathing, come to my event, learn the breath. And then if you want to do that on your own, you can. Now, when we pair the intention and the activation and the energy of money breathwork, that's when it amplifies, right? But breathing is free. It really is. You have it already in you. And so that is something you could just begin to practice so that you can begin to access that, like the belief in your body, act, and also access the safety of that dream. Like it's actually safe for me because like I find a lot of people have these big dreams, but what's actually happening is they're making their big dreams and the success at that level, it means something. Like um if I have all this money, then this will happen, right? If
Mhm.
I have this success, then a lot of like moms are like, if I have this level of success, then I'll be disconnected from my family, or I'll have to be I'll be working so much that I won't have as much time for them. Or, I've had this actually come up like in clients of mine where their family has not liked people with money. They've like, didn't, they like put rich people down. And so she's like, oh, my mom would always talk about hating rich people. And I was like, well, then you better not be rich, right? Because your
Yeah,
mom's going to hate you, right? And that's like what's like actually ingrained in your body, where it's obviously that's not going to be true, right? But that's the fear. That's like the ingrained fear and trauma in your body that we need to find safety in the success. And so the more you can find safety in that success, AKA your dream, then the more you're going to take action towards it.
this is so awesome. I feel like I'm all in. I'm like my journey helped me to be the clear channel that I know that I'm meant to be.
Yes. Oh my gosh, so good.
Yeah. So I just have two more questions. Do you think it's possible to cut years off of achieving your big dreams? Like, do you subscribe to this quantum leap stuff?
Yes. Like, absolutely. And I feel like it comes back down to that commitment and that compounding the momentum. So here's what happens. This actually happened within me. It happens with a lot of clients. And what happens when we don't use something somatic in our expansion? Because I don't feel like what happens a lot is what I call quantum leap trauma. So if someone comes in, they just like are all in and they expand super fast, but their nervous system's not caught up. They can experience what I call quantum leap trauma, whereas where they get to the other side, they're burnt out, or they sabotage, right? Or they like something happens, right? They can't hold it, and so um, I believe in this compounded consistency of that momentum because what happens, what I see a lot of people who aren't committing to like this nervous system work and this continuous nervous system work is they'll expand and then like contract and
Yeah.
expand back and then contract and expand and contract. Instead of expand, find safety, expand, find safety, expand, find safety. And it doesn't mean that it has to like take a really long time for each times of those to find safety. Like I remember when I hit my first, not my first, it was my second. I had a 20K month back in 2021, 2020, 2020, 21, 21. And the next month was like a 4K month because I couldn't hold it. Like I didn't know how to hold that amount of success. And then when I had money breathwork, I hit a 25K month and I was like, oh my gosh, I could feel that happening again because that was the most I had made in a month. And so I was like, well, I have my tool. And so I did money breath work. I did it. I continued to do it. And the next month was like a 22, 23, 24K month. And I've hit like 40, 45K months since then. And I've been like, yeah, let's go. Let's freaking go. Like, I love it. Right. And so I 100% believe that going fast is available to you, but we cannot outrun our nervous system. So you need to have that somatic practice. Like I said, whether it's money breath work, whether it's something else that really regulates your nervous system in that success. I feel like money breath work is super unique and you can't really find that anywhere else. But that's cool. But when you're in that expansion, you're showing up big, you're doing the things, finding that safety in that bigness is going to cause one it to happen faster, and two for it to stick. And we want it to stick. We don't want it to be this roller coaster. We want you to hold it and have it versus woo, 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 right? We don't want that.
Yeah. So this money is all coming in through what? Through one-on-one clients, through accessing your library of breath
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. So I currently only have kind of like group offers. I do some like pretty like higher like one-on-one, but since we've been traveling, since we've been kind of living this newer lifestyle, we travel around in a camper, we have our home, we kind of go back and forth, we're homeschooling. I haven't done as much one-on-one, so I actually just have my containers, like my group programs. I have my business expansion experience, which includes everything, and then I have kind of smaller programs like Money Magnet or Being Big or Sales Alchemy. And so it's pretty much all come from just like growing that movement and having people come in and connect to it. And like a lot of my clients don't ever leave because they're like, this is the best thing ever. Like I get,
Mm.
they keep, continuing when their time is up, because they don't want to stop. So it's really like that momentum of, um, one, creating an amazing product that I'm just like, people want more of, right? They want to keep having it. And then two, like I always create new things. Like I'm always like using my own genius to create new breathworks and these things. And I'm really creative. So it keeps people excited and interested, right?
Awesome. So I'm building my library now of running meditations. How long do you think it would take me to reach that level?
Oh, well, I mean, like I started, this is what I always say to my clients, especially because I have a breathwork certification too. And so my clients are like, how do I get to be like you? And I started with one, right? And I created, so my first program I ever sold was Money Magnet. And I actually thought Money Magnet was going to be like, I was going to do the same program over and over and over again. And I realized that's not what this is. Like, I'm going to create every breathwork is going to be different. And so I just started creating and I started, hey, I sold while I created. Do not create your library without selling it. Like create these like maybe like a mini program, like a money, like I created Money Magnet. Maybe you have that like Disney dream path one and like to go along with your podcast, right? And then you have like a series of meditations that have different themes, right? And you sell that as a package, right? Because I sold Money Magnet and I had, I think on my first time I sold Money Magnet, I might have had 10 or 12 people come in. But during that time, I created 10 breathworks. And then I sold it again and I had like 20 people come in and I created 10 more breathworks. And then I had Being Big came in and I created 10 more breathworks, right? I was selling them as I went. And every single time I was building my library. The vault that I have now was always my dream. But if I had thought about it then and been like, I want 275 breathworks with like target experiences where I would have been too overwhelmed, right? I'm like, oh my God, I got to create that all right now. But I just started doing it. I sold it. I did it with my clients. I did a lot of one-on-one work at the beginning because I got my ideas of like, oh, these are the themes that are coming up. So I'm going to create breathworks for this. I did free events. I did um like other little mini programs and workshops, right? I just like let my imagination just take me and every time I sold it. Said, "Hey, I'm doing a 3-day program. It's $200. Come. I'm doing a free program, right? That's part of my vault." Right? All my free programs have become part of my vault. All my paid programs have become kind of my vault, part of my vault. And it's like literally the the embodiment of compounding, right? I'm just going to keep showing up. I'm going to keep doing these things. And now look what I've created. And so it's taken 2 years to get to where I am now, but I was making money the entire time. I was hit multi six figures along the way. Now I can say, look at all this, right? But the whole time I was building and growing and creating that momentum that success happened pretty quickly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's amazing. And where are you marketing? Is it just on Instagram or no, word of mouth?
Right. Well, Instagram is kind of like my lesser. I've pretty much grown on Facebook, and every time I run an event, I have people join my email list. So I have an email list. I mean, I don't even have a very big email list. It's probably like 1,200, 1,300 people at this point. But
Okay.
if you look at that, like, can you imagine if all of those people were in a room? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people, like some people are like, oh, I've got 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 people. And I'm like, okay, awesome. I have over 1,000 people on an email list, but like I get a pretty high open rate on my emails, like almost 50%. Like people are like, what's she doing? What's she doing? What's coming up? Right. And so I've pretty much done Facebook. I actually have dabbled I mean, obviously I'm on Instagram. I come to Instagram. I have fun there. But I haven't used it as like my main, like Facebook has been my main, um, driver. But once again, that's free, right? So like
Yeah.
Facebook and both of them are, it's just finding, and I always say this, like you can build your six-figure, multi-six-figure $1 million business on any platform you want, as long as you just go all in on it. I actually had a big realization a couple weeks ago because I was like, Instagram has always been like, oh, you need to be on Instagram. It was a should. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And I created the Money Breathwork Instagram, which is great. And I was like going on it every single day. But I wasn't feeling like super excited about it. And I was missing out on like because I like to write long posts. I like to like write stories. I like to do all that. And that's like more conducive to Facebook because I like Instagram, you can only have so many characters and it's like I called it fitting into a box, which is literally what Instagram is. And for me, the expression of Facebook was easier for me to show up versus Instagram was like, oh, okay, I got to sit down. I got to do these things. And it hit me like, I don't have to be there full time. Like I can have fun there. I can post reels. I can do those things. Because I built my whole business. I had the momentum on Facebook. And so when I was kind of trying to split that, I kind of lost a little of that momentum and I was like, oh, I don't want that. So I've kind of gone back to kind of being full on Facebook and then just having fun on Instagram. So it's like, but I hear the opposite, right? People just, it's so easy for people to show up on Instagram and that's just super easy. And it's like, wherever you feel like is the easiest, follow that and like build your business there without trying to think I need to be on like 18 different places because, um, that's just going to pull your energy, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I feel like Facebook can be a little bit more personable. It's more like, I feel like that's more like the people you know, the people that you grew up with, the people that,
Yeah.
that's how I feel about it anyways. And I feel like Instagram is more like, I don't know, like it can be overwhelming sometimes. Like I love your posts though. I think that they should be doing amazing. Like the one that I posted today saying that I was interviewing you. I'm like, that one's so great. Like I want to create a post like that, you know?
Yeah, well, that's like letting yourself like create that, like taking the pressure off. Like I think for me, I was putting so much pressure on Instagram. Like, okay, I need to like that. Whereas like I never put the pressure on Facebook. I just like showed up and I posted and I was putting that pressure on Instagram. And so like once I took that off, like I still get clients from Instagram. Don't get me wrong. Like I still have people who are like, I found you on Instagram or that's where I'm kind of like I'm personally using Instagram at this point to like really nurture the people who are already there. And then I imagine that's gonna like bring in more people. And then Facebook is like also nurturing. I guess I'm just like focusing on nurturing right now. Because I've also like you talk about like people you know on Facebook. I've because I've used Facebook, I've actually kind of filtered that out. Like, yeah, I have some friends and college people and all that thing on my Facebook who still like my posts and stuff. But like it's used for business. Like I use that for business and the people that are there for that reason. And so it can be what like where like I said, coming back to like wherever you want you can show up consistently, follow that. The audience is going to be there, right? Like if your audience you feel like it's on Instagram, don't go look at Facebook and you're like, oh, those are all my high school friends. It's like, no, but if you start using that for and you like it, then they're going to either filter off, they're going to root you on, but more people are going to come that are like, oh, what do you got going on? So it's like
Yeah.
either one is going to be if like whichever one you choose and go all in on, that's going to be the one that works. Period. That's like what I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool, cool, cool. Last question. So, I thank you for all of that too. I feel like that's amazing, knowing where to post your stuff and where to like put your full commitment in is very important, and
Yes.
taking pressure off too is really important. But I was wondering, one of the things that I like to incorporate into my running meditations and into my daily practice is dance and music. So I was wondering, if music is so inspiring, what's one or two of your favorite go-to songs or artists that
Ooh, okay. Let me bring up my Spotify because music is huge in breathwork. So,
oh,
like, I take my playlists very seriously. I think at this point, if I went to Spotify, it's not even open right now. If I look at how many playlists I have made, it's actually equivalent to how many breathworks. I think I'm over into the 300s at this point on Spotify. Um, but I kind of go between like I have like a playlist for lyrics, like songs that have lyrics and then songs that don't. And
mhm.
so sometimes there's a breathwork where I'm like, I don't want lyrics for this one. And so I just kind of use like powerful music. I'll look at like the different like people that I have. But sometimes I'm like, oh, I want lyrics. I actually started with Money Breathwork, no lyrics. I was like, no, I don't want any lyrics. And then I started kind of breathing up when I was breathing on my own. I started kind of like feeling a little bit some powerful songs. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so now my clients are like, that was the most amazing song for that part of the breath work. Um, so I find music is so important. I also have clients that get up and dance during breath work all the time. I do. I encourage it. It's like I said, movement is super, super powerful. Like whatever you're feeling called to do, we get weird, and that's really cool. And that's good. Let's see. My favorite, oh my gosh, I can share my playlist with you too. I don't know. I just have, by the way, there's this really amazing song, and I think it was from a Disney, it's Disney oriented, like Disney Princess, but it's by Brandy and it's starting now. It's a really good song that I
Okay.
actually put in a lot of my breathworks. And then I realized I'm like, I think this is like a Disney song. I put that in there. So that's actually one that I have a lot because it's just a really like uplifting song. I have like a big array of music. Like I have like kind of like grounding music, but then also like popular music. So I don't know if I can really choose a specific person. Like I mean, let's see how many songs I have on I call it Energize. I have 160 songs on one of my playlists that's like where I choose lyric songs from. And so I mean my thing is I'm always looking and always like looking for like what I feel moved. And so I listen to music all the time like, ooh, okay, I'm putting that on my playlist or I want to put that into the breath work. So like when I'm making the 10x playlist, I look at kind of the energies of I create my breath works very very intentionally with different phases, and so I pair the songs with those different phases for like that intentional movement. So it's pretty. I would say I have a very eclectic eclectic um, palette, I guess you would say. And I, from what I've heard, it's very good. So I don't have
Oh,
exactly like art because I don't even want to do just one artist. I like have so many. So
yes. Well, I love that. Brandy starting now.
starting now, that's a good one. I
Yeah.
use that in Breathworks. I haven't used it in a while because I used it so much. But maybe I'll put that in our Breathwork for 10x. But that's a good one.
Yay, sounds good. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the Disney Life podcast and our big, amazing intro to the world. And it's been a pleasure speaking with you. You guys need to definitely check out her 10X event that's happening next week. And yeah, is there anything else that you would like to add that we haven't covered?
No, I mean, come follow me on Instagram because it's just always the easiest one to go to. Alessandra Caprice or Money Breathwork. Um, and even though I'm more active on Facebook, I am on Instagram, and I just find it fun to be over there and connect with people. And it's the easier URL, so come follow me there, and then come to the event. The event's going to be super fun. It's going to be a lot of women breathing together for their dreams, and so that's just like in of itself just such a fun energy.
Yay. Awesome. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you on the next episode.